All right, folks, let's talk about Silk Sonic. So this is a combination album. This is a combination album between Bruno Mars and Anderson Paak, both of which are pretty stellar singers. You should know Bruno Mars by this point. He was one of the dominant personalities of the 2010s when it came to pop music and a little bit of R&B thrown in. Has huge records like Locked Out of Heaven, Just the Way You Are, and I can't. There's this another song. I mean, and basically one of the songs of the decade that was thought of by Billboard, which is Uptown Funk. That was a good hit. Anderson Paak kind of has a similar kind of vocal approach to Bruno Mars, but he's not quite an entire singer. He has some rap songs thrown in. But I listened to one of his recent projects. I haven't really reviewed him yet, but I did listen to a little bit of Oxnard, and I liked the song he did with Kendrick Lamar, "Tense," which is very similar to what Bruno Mars does. And then also he did a song with Snoop Dogg where he kind of did the singing thing also, and it was "Anywhere." Now I felt like that should have been a single, but unfortunately Oxnard was kind of under promoted, and I don't think Anderson Paak has dropped an album since 2019's Ventura. He had like a series, like a trilogy. Maybe he did another record. I don't really recall. But I feel like Anderson Paak, from what I know of him, one of his definite strong points is when he does like more R&B flavored stuff. But a thing to know about this project before you get sold on this, understand the title suit Silk Sonic was composed by Bootsy Collins, and that's not the problem, but the situation about it is they have a real affinity for the 70s on this project. Just to let you know ahead of time, the single Leave the Door Open was kind of like a primer for that, but all of the other singles on this project and most of the songs on this project have the 70s in mind. And that's kind of the thing. It's not 80s, not early 90s. I mean, Bruno Mars kind of did early 90s on his 2016 album, 24 Karat Magic, but this has like a particular theme and it sticks with it the whole way. So, I was really hoping from Silk Sonic. I mean, I could tell just by their band name that maybe that they were going to kind of have like an approach, but I really kind of wish that we would have gotten like a contemporary follow up to Leave the Door Open. And by contemporary, I mean something that would have sounded like a club record circa 2020 or something, 2018. That would have been real nice. And something, I mean, R&B is a trickier genre to really have a smash hit project just because it usually doesn't make it past like the club first single. I mean, they'll try to do ballads, but for the most part, I suppose, unless they're like Marvin Gaye or something, most people want to hear contemporary singles from an R&B album. Now, speaking of R&B albums that are trying to do singles, Silk Sonic did above average at doing it, and we're going to talk about that as it goes along. But kind of the situation about it is it's very difficult to expect like R&B to kind of have like that perfect mastery as far as trying to do singles. It's difficult. Usher did it in 2004 with Confessions, but there's not going to be. I was really hoping that Evening with Silk Sonic would have had like another number one like Leave the Door Open, because that was a huge song that really nailed it, complete home run right there. But I don't feel like they have another number one in them, and considering that Bruno Mars typically gets like multiple number ones from his albums, and then on top of that Anderson Paak is pretty heralded in terms of just regular rap music, this was somewhat not a colossal disappointment, but kind of a miffing subject that kind of is like, damn, where are the number ones? But it's not bad. I mean, I'm not going to say by any means is it not worth purchasing or is it bad. It simply is not like going to be like just number one after number one. But we'll go ahead and get into the singles now. So the first single was Leave the Door Open. Really good, real kind of silky, like their band name. It's got smooth vocals from both of them. This is handled real well. This is the execution on this song is top notch. This is how more R&B songs should do. I definitely think this template should be copied, and not maybe not so much like repeated over and over again, but used as like a format for how R&B should kind of go, because it hit number one. It's been a long time. It's been a long time since I've seen an R&B single hit number one. It doesn't happen as frequent as it needs to. Um, Second single, Skate. This is where the disappointment kind of set in. I was really expecting, I mean, I didn't know. I mean, Skate is good for Anderson .Paak just because he doesn't have a colossal amount of hits to his name. But for Bruno Mars, hitting 14 on the Billboard 100 is almost subpar. And that's kind of the thing. I really expected Bruno Mars to have like some degree of like song songwriting in the vault in terms of just being able to hit like top 5 on the Billboard again and again. And I feel like the 70s theme of this project kind of inhibited that. It kind of botched it, because if it maybe had not been 70s themed, maybe we would have gotten a proper second single that could have really shined. I mean, but considering that they had to stick with the theme, it's not that Skate is bad. It just is not it's not as much of a hit as Leave the Door Open was. It does not have the lasting appeal. The chorus is okay. I felt like did a decent job. I mean, it's a breezy song. It definitely has a summer feel. It's a real breezy song, but it doesn't have the longevity of the song is what takes the biggest hit. And I just felt like it just is kind of like short-winded fun in a lot of ways. This doesn't have quite the emphasis of the previous one, even if Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak do a good job. I mean, really, I felt like the chorus could have somehow had more addictiveness to it. But the third single, this one was really good, and I don't know how well it's going to chart just because of the title, but Smoking Out the Window was extremely good. This was a solid follow-up. It's recent, so I don't know how it's going to perform, but this is the kind of stuff that I was hoping. Feels kind of like a winter song, just the fact that they're kind of disappointed in the woman that they're seeing, and kind of, being hung out to dry and expected to pay more money and that sort of stuff. That's more than what they bargained for. And it makes sense that they're smoking out the window, because it's like, what the fuck, and it's kind of the situation behind that is a clever theme. This is another one that I felt like is a solid follow-up. The reason why I would say it's not as much of a hit as it could be is just because I don't know how it's going to perform. If we get to like 3 months from now and this song only hits like 25 on the Billboard 100, it's going to be disappointing, because the song is better than a top 25 song, and that deserves to hit like number 8, number 6, something like that, maybe even number 3. I don't know about number 1, but it's good. That's kind of the thing. But I don't know how many more singles they're going to pump out. And kind of the situation is about it on top of that is there's only 8 songs on this project. That kind of, I mean, I feel like maybe 3 is more than enough. I mean, Bruno Mars has been able with 8-song albums to get to like the 4th or even 5th single. But I don't know how far like Anderson .Paak's going to push it. And it's not like I feel like it's his fault. I mean, they have good chemistry, to speak of that. Anderson .Paak and Bruno Mars have extremely good chemistry. They're similar. They sing similar. They both have melodies that are catchy. It's not like Bruno Mars, because he charts more, is miles ahead of Anderson .Paak. They do it, and I had difficulty even figuring out that was Anderson .Paak on Leave the Door Open, just because they're as similar as they are. So I didn't know that, but yeah, it's basically like there's no difference in skill set in terms of their catchiness. So that's one thing you don't have to worry about. It's just the only thing is just kind of the structure of like the singles. That's about the only thing that really bogs down this project, is just the fact that someone like Bruno Mars, who knows how to chart as often, would have to pump that into like the emphasis of this project to make it to where it could be like a multi-platinum hit rather than just a gold or a platinum. Because for once again, for Bruno Mars, just hitting platinum is kind of subpar. I mean, most of the time he's hitting 5 times platinum, 4 times platinum. So it just feels like that to be de-emphasized and not shoot for the stars, especially on a collaboration project, this feels kind of like what's going on here. But to look at it from Anderson .Paak's angle, these are extremely good songs. This is good. I mean, it's not to say that he's worse, but these songs are top notch in that sort of format. And this is the kind of, it's just like, Bizarre and King Gordy, if you know about those guys. It's kind of like, Bizarre helped King Gordy, chart higher and that sort of stuff. That's kind of the stuff. I'm going to talk about a few of the records elsewise on this project. Really, the only two songs I didn't like out of the 8 songs on here were Fly As Me and 777. Both of these had real contemporary for the 70s type stuff. It's, I know 70s music had contemporary music also, and upbeat and up tempo stuff, but I wasn't vibing with it. I mean, it could have worked, but I wish that they would have gone for like a different approach, because people in the 70s went to the club. That's kind of the thing. Just because they had a different sound style doesn't mean it had to match it. I almost would have thought maybe breaking the theme and putting like some like this shots of Hennessy or something like that type song on here could have really worked, but it sticks with the theme, and that's one of the few weaknesses to this project. I mean, that's really about it. But um, so I'll talk about some of the records I did like. Blast Off is very similar to Leave the Door Open, and so is After Last Night. Those are more songs in that vein if you're looking more for more emphasis like that. And so that would bring the total songs I liked up to 5. I'll go ahead and list the songs I enjoyed. So, but then again, I already said it. But I'll just say, just so you have, so you can tell. Leave the Door Open, After Last Night, Smoking Out the Window, Put on a Smile, Skate, and Blast Off. But Put on a Smile is a depressing kind of song just because it has the angle of having a different way of saying things, kind of more like that they're not in that much of a good mood, but they're having to put on a smile. And they do a good job on here. I mean, it's really, it sticks out in a good way as one of the more, I mean, minus Smoking Out the Window, for the most part, they're in a pretty peppy and love-making kind of mood. And it's not like, fuck banging kind of music. It's more, sensual more so than something else. So it has like that's another theme it has, is this does not feel like this, like part-time fling type stuff. It feels like some sort of romance kind of in that sort of stuff. There's no real short-term type stuff on here, so it kind of feels in that sense it's another type detachment from contemporary as it were. But Put on a Smile does a good job of that, and it's one of the few songs that kind of has that kind of vibe, but I liked it, so it's just something to know. um, yeah, so what am I going to score this record? I'm going to give this record an 8. I almost want to give it an 8.5, but I didn't like the intro. I felt like it probably could have had better production on there. It could have been more silky. It just kind of felt like too triumphant and kind of like band-like almost, and I mean like marching band-like. Not like there's a problem with that, but I kind of would have thought it would have been more kind of smooth and something that like Marvin Gaye or one of those folks would have done. But I wasn't appreciating the intro. That was the other song out of 9 that I didn't enjoy. But the social score, I will give a 7, because I Leave the Door Open hit number 1. That's a number 1 song. But I don't know how Smoking Out the Window is going to do. That's the second best song on the album to me. And then Skate was decent. So that's kind of the thing there. So it just felt like I don't know how much further they're going to promote it and how much further they're going to go with it. But it's Bruno Mars, and Anderson .Paak has like a good, reception. So that's two things good about it to help bolster it. I mean, this is one of the big albums of the year, so I think it's going to find its way to its audiences easily. But just to kind of say that the impact of it, I don't want to say it's underwhelming, but it kind of, it misses some opportunities. That's one of the better ways to describe it. It has some missed opportunities, but I also have to blame like the public just because of the reception as to what they're going to think about it, which I don't do very much, because when you like a song, especially when people like singles but they underperform, and then the promotion of the album stops. That's disappointing. I can sense that kind of happening just because I can't understand why Smoking Out the Window won't chart. But that's kind of the thing. So that's a detachment. I don't blame Silk Sonic for this, but it's something to kind of blame as a complete package just because I can understand in some degree Skate not hitting as hard of an impact that it did, but Smoking Out the Window is that's one that should be higher up there. But it just feels like there might be some people who are going to say that there's nothing as good as Leave the Door Open, and that's not true. It just depends. To me, it's just a promotion game, and it just depends upon how far people are going to what they're going to digress about the topic, because it's just too much. It's too divisive, but that doesn't mean it's bad. It's definitely stellar. I mean, 8 out of 10 should tell you what to think of that. So